And we are the HercastleGirls.
Hello.
We are your mindful mavens, and we love to talk about mindset, motivation, how you can apply it to your business, life, spirituality, and all of that awesome stuff. So if you love this stuff, you definitely need to subscribe to our channel.
That's right, guys. Hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up so we can get this message all across the world, and leave a comment down below. We love hearing from you guys. It's always good to know how we're connecting with one another and how we're growing with each other, because girl, life is a journey and it's a lesson in itself.
It is, and life is always better when you know you are connected with other soulful creators,
so
which is
true.
what we call all of you. Today we are recording our podcast. It's all connected by HercastleGirls, and today we are talking about mindful listening and mindful communication.
Oh, girl, especially these days. That's super duper important, and
So important.
I feel like it's a big issue probably right now too.
It is. So we are going to be looking into how we can all become more mindful when it comes to listening and communication. This can apply to your business. This can apply to your relationships.
Definitely.
So we're excited to get started.
So let's not hold up the show then. Let's just get into it.
Let's get into it.
Right now. Today, we talk about practicing mindful listening and communication. Once we master how to do this right, we can not only change the world, but save it.
The principles of mindful communication start with intention, being fully present, remaining open and non-judgmental, and relating to others with compassion. There are two parts to communication: speaking and then listening. Let's talk, and you know what, let's start with the most difficult one, which would be listening. In society, we have come to believe that listening only involves us being quiet. But other things need to happen.
Exactly.
When it comes to listening other than silence.
Right.
There needs to be interest.
That part.
And attention.
You know, it kind of helps.
Right? So there is a quote by Stephen Covey.
Yes.
The quote is, "Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply."
Girl, I mean, that alone is just a... It's like, let's wrap this up, because that's
Let's
pretty much...
Yeah, we're done. We're done with the podcast. We're
Thank
done
you
with
so
the
much
video.
for listening,
Good
for
night.
watching. He basically shut it down. And then it's so true. Like, you know, no one ever wants to like listen to understand. We talk about this a lot, where I even saw a quote a few days, which also goes back to even what you were just talking about before, and even through our own conversations, where someone will be expressing themselves. Maybe they're not having a good day. Maybe, or even with the whole self-compassion that we talked about last week, maybe they want to vent to someone just to get, their mind clear or whatever.
Yeah.
So you talk to your best friend or your man or your girl or whatever, your parent, whoever, and they're listening, but they're just listening so they can quickly just say, well, you know, you should just do this and do that. Like, they're not listening to say, wow, this person is really hurting. You know, if you guys could see Carcia's face, I encourage everyone listening to the podcast, make sure you find the video and even if you fast forward to this part to see her face, it's worth it. But yeah, it's just like, instead of feeling what the person is saying, we're just, you know, it goes through one ear, goes out the next, and then you're just like, oh, you know, just, you know, take a nap or go for a walk, or I don't know, you know what I mean?
I feel that people, as human beings, we do love to be heard, and we do love to be validated. So sometimes it's coming from a place where it's very self-serving. But communication is like a dance. It's like playing on a team. You do one thing, and then because that person did that one thing, you do another thing in response to what they did. And to relate to someone with compassion, which is, you know, one of the things I mentioned in our intro.
Yes.
You've got to be investing your time into listening, and not only listening so you can find a way to up-level yourself and say, well, I went through the same thing and this is how I handled it.
Okay.
It's sometimes communication can look different. And I find that we don't give enough of our attention.
We don't.
When people need it.
We don't. That's true.
Rather than listening with interest, rather than listening with attention to the person, we are comparing our thoughts and experiences. We're mind reading, which is assuming and trying to predict what the person will say next. And then while the person is talking, in our mind, we are rehearsing what we're going to say.
Yep.
We don't even know what they're actually saying because we're not paying attention. Right? And then we are judging the speaker before they're done. We're already judging them in some way.
Yeah, it's just interesting how, like, someone will be saying something, and like you were saying, in their mind, they're already like rehearsing, oh yeah, I'm going to say this. It's like you're trying to one-up someone. I was like, oh yeah, you think you have problems? Well, bam. And it's like, yo, I just asked, I just want you to listen. And listen without thinking of a response. Just listen.
Yeah.
That's it.
Everything seems to be a debate.
Everything is a debate.
You know what I mean? Like,
girl,
we are not here to debate with our best friends or our partners or our parents, whatever we're doing. Not every conversation needs to be combative. And I find that today, more than ever, conversations have become just that.
It's funny you mentioned that. There was a quote that I saw on the gram, and the quote was just like what you said. A person's feeling shouldn't end in becoming an argument. Like, why are we fighting and having like a whole like fist fight over someone's feelings just because you don't understand
the feeling?
Right.
And if you would pay attention
that part
and keep your mouth closed, you might begin to understand the feeling that the other person is having. Also, and we'll get into that later in this podcast, is what should you be doing as the listener if someone is sharing their feelings? Because again, everyone's feelings are valid. There are no unwarranted feelings.
Right.
But a person has to process them.
Absolutely.
Feelings don't disappear because you told me to calm down.
That's it.
And rather than saying calm down, you can ask questions. You can get insight to help the person further understand what they can do to begin to process those feelings and go along their own journey to healing. But a lot of times in conversations, I find that people use it as a way to, like you said, up-level themselves. So, to become a mindful listener, you have to become comfortable with something called silence.
Which is very difficult in the world we live in.
It is.
Everyone wants their voice to be heard, to the point where if someone is speaking, another person will just interject and try to talk like louder. And before you know it, it's like a yelling fest. And we've coming from the corporate world, both you and myself, so we know what it's like being in that boardroom and, someone will be saying something and then someone else will just blurt out as if, the person that's speaking has no merit or isn't worthy of speaking, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I think, blah, blah, and it's like, wait a minute, that lady or that man was just talking, you just totally cut them off. And then it's like a yelling match, like who can yell the loudest, who can get their point across the fastest, instead, like, you know what, it's funny, Car, I always say to myself and to other people, listening is a severely major superpower.
Oh, it is. And
it's so powerful.
It
just
is.
To listen, to not say a word. Just listen.
And that's why I did want to mention introverts, because silence is very easy for introverts. Introverts are very good at being silent and listening and not saying one single word.
Yep.
And even after someone is done speaking, they are still silent.
Yeah.
Why? Because they are thinking of the right response.
That's it.
So usually when you get a response from an introverted person, it's going to be full of wisdom, full of smarts, full of love, because they took their time. In a world where we are used to things coming through quickly, we still have people that are speaking with intention and speaking slowly and paying attention to what people say, so that they can respond in a way that is helpful.
I agree with that 100%. It's funny. It's like, everything's moving so quickly. Everything's moving so fast with technology, and with the attention spans are shrinking severely. So it's nice when it's rare, sadly, but it's nice when someone does just take that time to stop and just listen and process what the person is saying.
Right.
And then thinks before they speak, which is another thing. People don't think before they talk. They just vomit their sentence, which burns them in the end because they didn't think. And
I want to bring up a bit of a solution for when there is a person that you're in the middle of a conversation. You should just ask yourself, why am I talking?
Right.
And the idea is, when you're asking yourself, why am I talking, you're actually waiting, because you just don't want to just talk, like you mentioned. You want to speak with intention. So, is what I'm saying, is it true? Is it helpful?
That part.
Is it informative?
Okay.
Is it necessary? And is it kind? And when you take the letters and put that in an acronym,
yes,
it's actually think. THINK.
It's think.
So you wait, you think, and then you respond.
Something so simple. But we always say it, sometimes this most simplest thing for a lot of people is the hardest thing, which is, I'll never get that.
So the first thing you can do, why am I talking? Is it true? Is it helpful, informative, necessary, and kind? Well, it turns out that our camera battery ran out once again.
You know what? Our camera is trying to put us on these streets and make us look bad, but whatever. It was a great conversation.
It was. Check out the full podcast episode wherever you listen to podcasts. It's all connected by HercastleGirls, mindful listening and communication. We are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Google Podcasts. So find us there.
Thank you guys so much for watching it and for listening as well. Be sure to tune in next week. We love you guys so much. We appreciate all the support. It's been amazing knowing that our little space here on YouTube talks are really getting through to you guys. So that means a lot. That means that we're doing something that's really making an impact on the world. So we really appreciate it. Till next time, everyone. Bye!